I do care what you do with this information because it is important to our survival as a species. It's important to our planet. It is important for the world.
Here's a picture of Adolf Hitler visiting Switzerland on August 30th, 1923. Where he held speeches for Swiss leading industrials for a period of 8 days in the larger Swiss towns of Zurich, Basel and some others, collecting at least 30,000 Swiss francs at that time, which is about $1 million today. Some people say he even got 123,000 francs, which is about $4 million. So the Swiss financed Adolf Hitler, the Third Reich and the Second World War. The later head of the SS of Berlin, Gottlob Burger, said that Hitler came back with a suitcase full of francs and dollars. This Swiss financing enabled Hitler to do a military coup a few months later in November of the same year. And as we know, it failed, enabling Hitler to write Mein Kampf in prison, mostly written by Rudolf Hess. Hess was pure pharaonic and was even born in Egypt in 1894. And it was Hess, who was studying in Zurich at the time, who together with the Swiss Nazi Ulrich Wille invited Hitler to come to Switzerland. By that time, Hess already had become a member of the Swiss Templars, and it therefore has to be assumed that Mein Kampf in fact was a Swiss book. The Swiss never do anything for others unless they smell money. Big money. Only then they smile, the Swiss. So when the Swiss invited Hitler, they said, well, we like your ideas very much. So you kill the Jews and we take the bank account. The Swiss Nazi Ulrich Wille's mother was from the von Bismarck nobility and pharaonic per A. And the Swiss had also contacts to Goebbels and Himmler. He was also famous for keeping children's slaves, which I will tell you about in the next vid. Here the child's being sold in the market in Switzerland. Whenever Hitler visited Switzerland, he stayed in the Villa Schönberg, Nazi residence of Mr. Wille, and watched the Swiss cross, the Templar's cross on the right. The Swiss Nazi Templar Ulrich Wille even had his daughter study in Germany, so he could conceal his real reasons for visiting Germany all the time. Because after 1923 and after the covenant had been made, they decided that Hitler would better not visit the country anymore, where his finances came from, for safety measures. The covenant had to be hidden. I knew a geezer from the regiment who guarded Rudolf Hess in the Berlin-Spandau prison. And Hess told him that Hess flew over to England to tell people that Hitler was taking orders from the Swiss. And their aim was to destroy Germany as well. Which Hess didn't want. Hess said that on occasions he was crawling with Swiss in Germany who could of course speak accentless German. And eventually the Swiss Templars had Rudolf has silenced forever by their British Freemasonry companions. Hitler told the Germans what they wanted to hear, to win the people's trust, hearts and minds, so nobody realized that he did in fact the opposite until it was too late. Well, that's what politicians do, isn't it? So in this video you can hear him solemnly swear in an overwhelming, convincing way never to force children to war and that women shouldn't defend themselves in war. So 2 million German women could be gangbanged by the Red Army in 1945. All this was part of the plan since he got financed in Switzerland, 1923.
Ein Frauenregiment in der Sowjetunion beim Scharfschießen. Oder ein Frauenbataillon in Spanien beim Handgranaten werfen. Oder ich kann da den Vertretern dieser Art von weiblicher Gleichberechtigung nur sagen, ich würde kein Mann sein, wenn ich so etwas dulden wollte. Ich habe den Krieg erlebt. Ich weiß, wie schwer er ist. Ich weiß, von wie vielen Männern die Nerven in diesem Krieg zerbrochen worden sind. Ich habe sie zurückgehen sehen, oft zu Dutzenden und Dutzenden schlotternd, in sich vollständig zerfallen und erbrochen. Der Gedanke, dass ein Mädchen oder eine Frau das auf sich nehmen soll, da könnte ich dann keinen Respekt haben vor den deutschen Männern. Wenn der rief, stehen würde gerade, oder sie soll zurücktreten. Solange wir ein gesundes männliches Geschlecht besitzen, und dafür werden die Nationalsozialisten sorgen, wird in Deutschland keine weibliche Handgranatenwerferinnenabteilung gebildet. Und kein weibliches Scharfschützenkorps. Das ist nicht Gleichberechtigung, sondern das ist in Wirklichkeit Minderberechtigung der Frau. Denn für die Frau ist das schwerer als für den Mann. Für sie ist es viel furchtbarer als für den Mann. Ich könnte genauso gut sagen, ich rüste Kinder aus in Zukunft und schicke sie in den Krieg. Das werden wir nicht tun.
Empfängt in seinem Hauptquartier den Reichsjugendführer Axmann mit einer Abordnung von 20 Hitlerjungen, die sich bei der Verteidigung ihrer Heimat besonders bewährt haben und dafür mit dem Eisernen Kreuz ausgezeichnet wurden. Mit diesen 20 Jungen ist vor dem Führer symbolisch die deutsche Jugend angetreten, die als treuer Helfer unserer Soldaten und des Volkssturms mutig und unerschrocken im höchsten Einsatz steht. Der Führer lässt sich von den Jungen ihre Erlebnisse schildern. Ich habe zunächst mit 13 meiner Kameraden die den Befehl unseres Grundschuls im Stadtteil Kolumbus wussten, die Besucher, die den Einbrechen gefangen befand, zu sichern. Als diese dann aus der Richtung Gleiwitz am 24. Januar anhalten, teilte der Bandführer uns in 2 Gruppen ein und wurde mit der einen gegen die Panzer vor und um den Begriff anzugreifen, gaben die anderen gegen den Führerschutz. Unser Bandführer hat 3 Panzer abgeschossen und ist leider seine Versuche des Stürzens gefallen. Nachdem wir seinen Tod festgestellt hatten, mussten wir durch taktischen Runden nach einem Eisenbahn zurückziehen. Und dort haben wir dann am Abend die Untergehung und Durchführung der Straße von Gleiwitz nach Hindenburg und den Zugang zur Stadtbibliothek gesprengt. Ich war an dem ersten Angriff als Befehl des Kampfführers als Melder eingesetzt. Ich musste eine seelische Meldung zu den Sturmschützen zurückziehen und diese heranziehen. Diese kamen dann auch nach und zu ermöglichen für uns das Eindringen in das von Feind besetzte Dorf und so hoben wir die Bereitstellung auf. Als der Rudi näher an Laban heranrückte, habe ich mich dem Kampfkommandanten von Laban freiwillig als Melder zur Verfügung gestellt. Meine Aufgabe bestand darin, Meldungen zu den einzelnen Kompaniebefehlsständen zu bringen. Außerdem habe ich oftmals Panzerfäuste in Verkehrung in die Hauptquartieren gerufen. Die Panzerfäuste habe ich auf Leiterwagen oder Korn unter feindlichem Beschuss in die Artillerie geschossen.
Hitler and his gang had 175,000 German boys killed in the Volkssturm in 1945, and 2 million German women got gangbanged by the Russians. Well, you kill the men and their sons, So you can easily take the boners and conquer the women. And this is how the pharaonic genetics got spread again, because it was only the Soviet officers and officials who did this, whereas Russian soldiers themselves had strict orders not to touch any women and girls. This was restricted to the pharaohs only, and they came by the thousands from Moscow to have a go, or two. It was all planned this way, and Hitler in fact despised of the Germans. He lied to the English, he lied to the Russians, and the whole world, and most of all, he lied to the Germans. But he didn't lie to the Swiss. He kept his promise to the end. Hitler was a pharaonic, Freemason, Templar, Swiss agent who never got rid of the Freemasons, actually. He only sacrificed the lower, insignificant ranks of stupid Europeans, while the higher pharaonic Freemason ranks slipped into the officers' jackets of the SS, Wehrmacht, Luftwaffe, Navy and Gestapo for the next 12 years to come. Especially in the early days of the German Nazis in the 30s and 20s, a lot of Freemasonry symbols are being used, as the skull and bones here. And the fold-out pyramid Templars flag, as the Pope is having it. Adolf Hitler himself doing Freemasonry symbols with his hands, as all politicians do now today. Secret politician Freemason symbol. The hidden hand of the Freemasons, like Napoleon, like Stalin, like the rest. And watch his facial expressions of Mr. Goering while he's slipping his hand in his jacket. You can see he knows, you know, like he's, look at that. Now watch his face and the sneaky gesture while he's doing it. I mean, there's no doubt. Yep, they were all pharaohs, financed by Switzerland, so watch the Pharaoh show for more. I mean, there are real many times you can find this in history. Here is the logo of the Swiss Air Force during World War II, and they still haven't changed it today. The Swiss financed Adolf Hitler and World War II. Of course, this is a Nazi-built Focke-Wulf or Messerschmitt fighter plane. So here is a close-up picture from the same logo of the same picture. So this is the same fighter airplane the Germans had, and it's almost the same logo as the Nazis had on their warplanes. Well, the Swiss, if the Germans would have won the war, they would have only had to add the black cross in the middle of this white cross, which I'm going to show you later. Then we would have had a big European community Nazi army with the Swiss commanding. So here, this is the invasion of Poland, and the German tanks, they still had the Swiss flags on it, and then they changed it. The Swiss High Command changed that finally. The Swiss flag on the German tank in World War II, and then they changed it, you know, then they camouflaged it later on. And here's a picture of the logo of the Nazi German Luftwaffe, who bombed, killed and murdered millions of Europeans. Yes, it is a Swiss cross, as on the Swiss flag with a black cross as the one from a graveyard on it. So the Swiss had the same German fighter planes as the Focke-Wulf and the Messerschmitt. So in case they would have won the war, the Germans did, then they just would have added the Black Cross of Death, and it would be one army. They thought of everything, actually. So, well, the Germans, as we know, they lost the war, and then the Swiss smiled, oh, we're so happy that the Germans lost the war, and, you know, well, we did a good business anyway. So the Black Cross added on the Swiss Templar's cross is a symbol of death, as on a graveyard. So the German Nazi logo means we are the Swiss and we bring death. We bring death to the Europeans, just as they hate the European community very, very, very much here, and they only want to profit and parasite on Europe. This is Switzerland. Hitler took all the orders from his Swiss financiers, even of this Swiss logo on all German war material. The Swiss master race couldn't hold back their arrogance by putting this concealed Swiss logo on every German tank and airplane during World War II. Not knowing that 70 years later YouTube would come, where everything is analyzed and scrutinized until the truth is being squeezed out. The Swiss hide, smile and conceal and make very little or no mistakes at all. But here, the Swiss master race definitely made a mistake out of a time where they couldn't possibly imagine the internet's power of people uniting worldwide. Let's not forget. Let's not forgive. The Germans murdered Europe. But the whole idea of being the master race and all that is not very German. It's very, very Swiss, and they still do it today in the 21st century. On this post it even said all the 10-year-olds go and fight the Second World War and serve Mr. Hitler. Can you imagine? Here, on top of the most important German monument of the German people and their history, we can see the Isis of the Swiss pharaohs and the Templars' shield, or Rothschild, as on the Swiss army knife. Meaning, we the Swiss pharaohs and sisters of Isis, we own Germany and the BRD with our Swiss banks and Swiss Templars. The Swiss financed Adolf Hitler in 1932 and afterwards, and here we can see the result, the symbol of Switzerland and their banks on top of the Brandenburg Gate, the symbol of the German unity. So who's controlling the so-called German unity, and it stands on top of that, eh? The Swiss military wing of the Templars did 9/11. So the Swiss banks could gain an astronomous financial profit through the collapse of the Arab financial world due to the American invasions into the Muslim world consequent to 9/11. They did it. The Swiss did 9/11. The military wing, the Templars, and their financial wing, the Swiss banksters. The Swiss did it. There's no doubt. Just as the Swiss financed this monster here, so he could destroy Europe and the Europeans and their children. There's a rare picture showing Hitler in Switzerland in 1923 when they financed him. Now if the damn thing would be drawn in black, like on a piece of paper. You just draw it in black like a round. Forget about the red. And then if we take away two diagonals, like in white, and only the black stripes are being left, what do we get? I'm going to cut it out and show you what's left. So showing the drawn Templar's cross here, if I take away the white diagonals. So here we got a Templar's cross which was drawn with two diagonals gone. So it's a swastika in its original form. We just have to bend the outsides a little bit. And we get the swastika the Nazis used. So this means the Nazis were in fact Templars, and they came all from Switzerland, who gave all the orders. That's why Hitler didn't attack the hand that fed him. So the Nazis were in fact pharaohs, and the swastika is in fact from a pyramid. Okay, you get the point? I already told you that in the Pharaoh show, but now you can see it in a live show here, what I mean. So here in 1923 we see Adolf Hitler here in Switzerland. You see the guy with the gun in his pocket next to him? So here's when he got the money, and so he had to take the orders from them further on for the whole war. And that meant you kill them all and we take the bank accounts of everybody. This is why he didn't finish up with the British Army in Dunkirk, because the Swiss didn't want this. Because if he would have finished them off in Dunkirk, the British Army, then the war would have been over, and then there wouldn't be any gold for Switzerland. Hey, the Templars. At the beginning of the war in 1939, all the German tanks at the invasion in Poland had the Swiss cross on their tanks, as you can see it here. Later on they changed it. It was too obvious. No. Here's another one. It's like the white cross on the Swiss flag as they use it today. Then the Swiss asked, it was too obvious, so they ordered Mr. Hitler to change it into something else, which I'm going to show you later. Then the Swiss financiers ordered Mr. Hitler to change the sign on the tanks into this one here, which they kept for the rest of the war actually. But it's still a Swiss flag. There's only a black one in the middle, you see. So it's a bit camouflaged, as they camouflaged it all. So after the Poland invasion, they changed it for the rest of the war with the black cross in the middle. It was all Swiss financed and Swiss masterminded by the Swiss Templars, the Knights Templars. So the Iron Cross is in fact a Templar's cross. The big one is the Templar's cross, and the little one there is when you take away two diagonals, and it both comes from a pyramid and from the pharaohs, as I proved to you before.